What's up, guys? It's been a couple weeks. Had some stuff going on, so last weekend just wasn't clicking. Thank you to everyone that reached out regarding my buddy John who passed away. But it's been a pretty cool day. I spent most of the day talking with the guy who wants to come up to being a diag tech from what he's doing now. And what struck me about the conversation was the mindset. It's not about the money. It's not about anything other than the challenge, which I think is something that's really cool. It's something I've mentioned a couple times before, but it's it displays passion that I think is something that's sorely lacking, um, and a willingness to grow and challenge yourself. I think it's real easy to get stuck in the day to day grind of hanging parts or doing the same thing, same way every day. And I think it's really cool to see someone who wants to grow past that and continue pushing themselves to move into new things. It's frustrating when we hear people talk about being in a shop that won't pay for training, won't allow them to grow, or won't give them the breadth they need to, spread their wings out and move forward. Um, it's pretty awesome to see that. But it's definitely been a couple weeks of really a lot of different challenges from a lot of different directions. Um, we're onboarding a new tech, which is pretty awesome. Good guy, I like him so far. Um, we're still kind of recovering from some scheduling misjudgments, we'll say. It's actually been really cool. Luke has been out in the shop a lot more the last few weeks, which is kind of cool. This week primarily, but it's kind of cool to get to actually work alongside him in the bay, which will happen from time to time. But it's cool to get him out there and see him kind of relax a little bit, because anybody who's done both will probably agree that doing the work in the back is the easiest part of this. Even with those problem children we get, twist and wrenches is pretty objective. They don't argue, and if they do, we have a torch. Um, but I made a pretty good mistake going into last weekend. I think I don't remember when it was now. Had to really get stupid to get an axle out that good judgment was outweighed by a desire for speed. I became my own smashy bear. Hey, um, and something that should have been quick wasn't. I took an educated gamble that wasn't really educated, but it was a gamble. And it didn't work out, but we got it fixed and it's done now. Uh, it's just, I guess that's just one of those things that sometimes you send it and see what happens, and that Hail Mary turned out to not work well. Um, that's part of it, right? You learn from it, beat yourself up for 4 days, and then move on. I mean, that's my process. But it was a the other thing that struck me was I get very stressed out when we get behind. It's not for any other reason than I feel like I'm not towing my own weight, I guess. And it's a personal thing. It's personal insecurity. It's nothing anyone has driven into me, especially not since I got to where I am now. But it's something that in the past has been kind of the implication. Um, it was getting to a point where Lucas actually pulled me aside, I think around 6:30 Wednesday night, and kind of took a minute to reinforce what the priority is, what the goals are, what the drivers are. And it's easy to lose sight of that. I think when I came into this, volume and speed was always the goal. I've pushed really hard to get away from that, but it's so deeply ingrained. If I don't consciously think about it, I start falling back into that. That promotes a lot of hopping, a lot of fast things happening in 20 different places, but nothing actually getting done. I'm way busier when that's happening, but I'm getting little or nothing done. It compounds my frustration. It frustrates everybody else in the shop, I think. Maybe. Some of it's legit, some of it's legitimate. Yeah, you need to go handle this because he's in a hole. And some of it is just, okay, well, I'm going to triage, I'm going to run around, check all of this stuff, and then there's not a follow through with it. I'll get a rough picture and it's in my head, I don't put it down anywhere, and I move on to the next one. And I'll do that 5 or 6 cars, or 5 or 6 cars, and then completely lose track where I'm at and have to start over again, partially. Um, and I think I know for a fact there's a couple people right now that are chuckling because they do the same thing. But it's easy to fall into some of those bad habits, right? You get pushed in a certain direction for so long, and you get trained, especially initially, in with that methodology. I mean, yes, it can be broken, but in times of discomfort, we fall back to what we know and what's comfortable, and right or wrong, it's what we go back to. It's what we know. It's what we're comfortable with, and those habits take over. Um, it's things my dad and every vet I've ever met is real. One of their favorite sayings: "Remember your training. Fall back on your training." Well, it's being broken down and retrained is something that does take time, and the more time you've been trained to do it a certain way, the longer it takes to get out of that. And some of that foundational stuff probably is never going to go away without, you know, me being constantly on top of it and making sure I'm not doing it. But that's the struggle, right? Keeping the evolution going and building new pathways and new habits. Um, High stress, some would argue, is the best time to do that. I tend to agree because it does burn those lessons in and those habits in, but at the same time, at the end of the day, is it worth freaking out about that? No. Um, and I lose sight of that real quickly. I take everything that happens in the shop real personally. I take it as it's my responsibility. If something isn't going right out there, I am probably the reason for it. Is that justified? Probably not. Not every time. There are times where, yes, I create a mess. I don't, and inadvertently, I don't dump it on somebody else, but I create a mess. It gets sent to somebody else, and shit goes wrong. But and that is on me. That's communication on my part. But somebody else having a problem with a 20-year-old car, you know what? That's not my fault. I don't accept that sometimes. It's real easy in hindsight to look back at what we could have done to make it not go there. Um, but again, that's an experience thing. I can look at something, and one of our younger techs can look at something, and we have two totally different approaches. And how do we gain those? We gain those through experience, through time, through getting our ass handed to us by a bolt that broke or by something that didn't go right. It's real easy to lose sight of what matters and what matters to people. The ones coming in the door, but more importantly, the ones in the back. The ones who are grinding on this stuff every day, the ones we work next to every day, the ones we trust, the ones we have to trust. That's what matters, and it's so easy to lose sight of that. Sometimes it's worth taking that little bit of time to, like, hey, dude, you're more important than the hardware. What can I do? What do you need? It's something that takes 30 seconds, a minute, and can really make a difference in someone's day. No matter how close we are, how well we know each other, you never know what battle somebody else is struggling. Don't assume. Have a good one, guys.